This podcast is brought to you by Blackaby Ministries International. To find out more, visit blackaby.org.
Welcome to the Richard Blackaby Leadership Podcast, helping take your leadership to the next level. Richard, good to see you.
Well, always good to be with you, Sam.
Hopefully you're getting things sorted out with all your construction woes.
Yeah.
We've mentioned that in the past, but hopefully things will come to some sort of conclusion and a result that is pleasing to you, hopefully.
Well, I tell you, I'm realizing I've kind of dealt with a con man that has taken a bunch of my money and done really shoddy, bad work. And so trying to get on several different levels now, I've got to get builders. We're just looking this morning at all the stuff that wasn't done right, that won't pass code, that has to be redone, and trying to figure out if I never get any of my money back that I gave this person. And so, it's funny in life, oftentimes so many parts of your life can be going along great and, never better. But then for some reason, it seems like the Lord oftentimes will just leave something in your life that keeps you in prayer and keeps you humble. And
that's for sure.
Makes you realize, okay, I don't have it all together, and I need to be more wiser still in life in some ways. So
we'll drive you back to the Lord. So
yep.
I think,
and so we probably all have that. I know a lot of times with leaders, oftentimes it's in their family. Their work is going great, but then there's a child that's struggling or something, and I don't think God causes that, but I think that those areas in our life, I think they keep us human. They remind us that we're not perfect, that we need God.
Yeah.
And so I certainly have mine in my life right now too.
Well, and rarely people on the other end of those trials and tribulations, we see that no, in fact, it was worth it. Although in the midst of it, it certainly would be nice to not have it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it always inspires me to learn, to grow. Okay, this is a bad experience, but if I can at least be wiser coming out of this, then I see something good from it. And so that might be a great podcast sometime. Just talk about how do you try to seize what good you can, even out of difficult experiences.
No, let's pencil that in, and I'm sure we'll unpack that later on.
Yeah.
But speaking of wisdom and growing, one way that we can certainly all do that is how we relate to people. And, we call this people skills, or just being likable. As leaders, the bulk of our work is actually with people. And I know we've talked too about the transition from sort of management, or from being a good worker to then becoming a good leader, and how oftentimes that the biggest struggle there is going from being good at your task and your job to now you've got to navigate people. You're doing less of the actual work and more of the leading, the coordinating of individuals, which just brings a whole host of problems. Some people are better at it than others, and typically those in higher ranks in leadership tend to be very good at working with people and being around people. And so I think every once in a while we just need to circle back on this and say, how are our people skills developing? What areas can they continue to grow in?
Yeah, and I've said this before. I've taught leadership all around the world, and I believe there are a lot of leadership lessons and skills that can be taught, that can be learned. You can grow for sure as a leader, but the one caveat I often put on that is if you have people skills, if you know how to relate to people in a healthy way, I can teach you how to lead.
Yeah.
But if you really struggle to relate healthily to people, I don't know that you'll ever be a very effective leader.
Yeah.
And as you know, I get to relate to a lot of very successful leaders, many in business, CEOs of very large companies, and as well as many pastors and other kinds of leaders. And one thing and they're very diverse in so many different ways. But one thing I think you can pretty well summarize from just being around a lot of these kind of guys and women is that they tend to be good with people.
Yeah.
That leadership is a people business. You have to relate to other people to lead, and people that are good at leading tend to be good at relating to people. And you can have all kinds of personality types, and some may be extroverts, some may be introverts, but But there are just some skills in relating to people that I think open all kinds of doors and cause people to trust you and to like you and to be favorably disposed toward you. And then there's other things, that some bad habits that people have that cause people to close doors on certain people and to not trust them or not have confidence. And the thing I found is that if you struggle with people skills especially, you see the results of that, but you often don't notice what it is you're doing.
The cause, yeah.
And we all can develop bad habits that kind of creep in and start harming us, and we don't even realize it unless we have people around us that will point it out to us. And so I wanted just to do that again today. We've done this before, just talking about people skills. It's something I think just periodically we just need to stop and take a quick inventory and see, is there anything I could do to improve how I relate to people? Are there bad habits that have crept in? Because I want to be the most effective leader I can possibly be. And so I'm going to run through a list of again, this is just a lot of kind of, as I'm around people a lot, there's times where I'll watch someone that I just think, wow, this person's really good. This person they start speaking, they enter a room, they meet someone, and right away there's all kinds of just very favorable vibes coming out. And what is it that they do? You know, I've watched people to say, why is it that when they enter the room, people are just drawn to them? People are smiling around them. People are ready to charge, you know, the castle when this person is around. And so a couple of things I would say. One is just invest energy. If you ever dealt with customer service, you've seen the opposite of this sometimes, where you need help
of energy,
and it's like they're barely investing enough energy to keep their eyes open. You know, they're just very monotone, very sluggish, no rapid movements, no energy. And you know, I know, some of this maybe is just my personality type, but I've known some guys, some pastors especially, that were really nice people, very laid back kind of guys, but they were so laid back that everything about their leadership was laid back. There was nothing was moving forward, growing. There was no excitement. And if you want people to be excited about you and who you are and what you're leading, you've got to demonstrate energy. And it takes, I'll just tell you, that's, you know, one of the ways you know an extrovert from an introvert. It's been said, extroverts gain energy from being around people. Introverts lose energy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that neither one, you know, it doesn't mean that one likes people more than the other, and I would probably say I'm kind of a bit like that, as far as I can walk into a crowd and talk to people and hold conversations and do all that. But at the end of the meeting, when I go back to my hotel room, I'm toast. I'm tired. It took out of me. And I find that for me to really make a good impression, for me to be effective, I have to spend energy.
Yeah.
And that means you don't just kind of sit back and just talk really lethargically. And it's funny to me, because I'll be around people that at every level of work, where they just don't put a lot of energy into what they're doing. They don't put energy into their conversations, and so they just don't get much result back from those encounters with people. And no one feels energized by having been around them.
Well,
and so
guess I'll go take a nap now.
Yeah, it's like, after being around that person, I'm ready to have a nap all afternoon. You don't want people just to chill out necessarily. I mean, just like wind down around you. If you're going to lead, you've got to have some energy, and that means because it takes way more energy to be enthusiastic, to be energetic, to be engaged, to have your mind going and listening to what's being said.
Well, and I think that a lot of times it's for introverts, it's maybe a matter of default mode is maybe less energy. And so you have to really be conscious to say, okay, if I'm going to go into this meeting or if I'm going to meet with these people, I need to consciously consider the energy output and how I'm coming across.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for introverts, the default may be, less energy, quieter, And so for some, it just really takes that conscious effort to think about that output.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't hurt to just see a video sometime of yourself. I've known pastors that were making announcements in church, and it was just like boring, and it just like put some energy into that, like or preaching or making, whatever it is, public speaking. If you're going to be a public speaker, it takes a lot of energy, and I've known even there are times where I have certain stories I'll tell that maybe could be funny or entertaining or emotionally gripping. And there's times where I'll think to myself, do I have the energy required to use this story? Yeah. Some stories just take a lot of energy and movement and enthusiasm, and there's times it's like, I don't know if I have that much to spend on this one, because to really be engaged requires energy. And so that's the first one. The second one, which I will just mention because it's so obvious, but make eye contact with people. Look them in the face. And don't look around people. Look at them. Mm-hmm. Let them know you're focusing on them. You're listening to what they're saying. And again, it seems like, and I'm watching younger generations that are used to screen time. Communicating with people by text or Facebook or some Messenger or some other social media, and it seems we're less and less accustomed to looking at people face to face, and I think that's going to become a lost art in time, because we do so much on screen anymore. And I noticed, I was on a Zoom call even this morning, and a lot of times people turn off their video even, so they're listening, they're watching you, but you can't see them. And sometimes who knows what is going on with them at that time, but I think it's
I was on one of those recently, and I had a screaming 3-week-old, so sometimes
there's a reason
it's better to have it off, but no, it's hard to, if half the attendance has their screens off, it's kind of tough.
I'm trying to give a moving talk, but so eye contact is still a powerful way. If you want to influence people, look people in the eye. A third thing is just smile. And we've said this before, but I can't say it enough. A lot of people, they lead a meeting, they make an announcement, they give a public talk, but they're not smiling. And smiles, it's just amazing the power. There have been times where I've just felt like, or I watched someone do this, where they walk up to the microphone, and the first thing they do is just have a big smile at everybody, and they just take them. They haven't even said a word yet, but the moment that they smile, you just feel at ease. Walls come down. You feel favorably disposed, and you haven't even heard what they are saying yet. But
you already like them.
And laugh. Be someone that. I mean, I've worked with people, and I've never heard them laugh, and you think your laugh ought to be commonplace. If you're a leader, people ought to know what your laugh sounds like, and they ought to see your smile. And because when you laugh, when you smile, you put people at ease. You actually, when people hear laughter in the office, it immediately will, for a lot of people, will create goodwill, good feelings. This is a good place to be right now. There's people are laughing, and so be the kind of person that's fun to be around. People, if you're going to put a lot of time in working someplace, you want to enjoy the people you're with. And there's I watch people that are really effective with people, and it's like they're having a good time while they're with people. They obviously enjoy their people. They enjoy being with them. So, and again, I think you can't force that. You can't just sort of say, "Oh, it's probably time for me to laugh here. It's been a while." No, just be the kind of person that, if we all just have a laugh track, you just push a button now and then. But are you that kind of person? And I want to, because I hear people all the time, and I'll have people come up to me that are just deadpan as can be, and say, "I just have a lot of difficulty getting. No one wants to volunteer. I can't get good staff to work with me." But then you look at the person and say, well, it certainly doesn't look attractive to work with you. You don't seem like the kind of person you'd want to spend time with if you weren't paid to. Work at just being the kind of person everybody wants to be around. Fourth one is, watch your words. Watch what's coming out of your mouth. And for a lot of folks, I would say don't talk too much. Don't say more than you need to. The more words you have, the more likely you're going to say something you regret or that hurts someone, or that sound that when you kind of water down your words with too many of them, then obviously everything you're saying is not profound, engaging. It's just becoming verbiage. And we all get into bad habits. We say things that I don't know why it is, but certain kind of sayings, oftentimes we say it because we're nervous or because we're filling in space. But watch out for those kinds of little phrases that you can say. There's several that are going around right now and I don't know why Sam, I'm just going to sound like a grumpy old man here, but can I just tell you a couple of peeves I have
lay
right
it on
now?
me.
Okay, I don't know why this is. Now, this for our listeners, maybe this gets you too, or maybe you're someone who says this, but here's 3. One is I don't like the phrase "long story short." I don't like that because this is why. Because guess what's happened? By the time the person says that, guess what?
It's a long story.
It's already been long. Yeah. So it's like I always want to say,
no, it wasn't a long
it's
story.
It's like at this point, it's not short now. You cannot cut back what you said. And so people go on and on and on. And then it's like, well, long story short, it's like, well, no, it's not. Long story finally
that ship has sailed.
Coming to dock, but it's not short now. It's too late to call it short. But we say that almost invariably every time I hear someone say long story short, I immediately think, no, it's too late for the short part. It's long. It's just getting longer. The more you
missed your opportunity to shorten that
but it's almost as if that's a way of saying, okay, I know I've kind of been rambling on here, but now I'm going to try to bring this
trying to land the plane.
The plane here, and so
no, you know what they mean when they say that, but the actual words don't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, so that's one.
Well, I can agree. Yeah.
And I've got another one. And the other one is just it's 2 ways of saying the same thing, but this is it's said a lot right now, and I don't care for it. And it's where a person will be talking, maybe giving a presentation of some kind, and then they'll just repeatedly say, "Does this make sense? Does that make sense?" Or sometimes they'll say, "Do you know what I mean?" But the more common one now is, "Does that make sense?" And now I sort of get what they're trying to say. It's like, okay, I've just explained this to you. Does this make sense? But Sam, if every time I tell you anything, I say, like, Sam, does this make sense? What's your impression of that? Like,
well, you're likely to think, does this person think I'm stupid?
Right. That's what I think.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you haven't used any like really big words. You haven't used really deep concepts. You've just been telling me some basic stuff that anyone who understands English would understand. But you keep feeling like you need to ask me if it makes sense. Yeah. Like, do you think I have trouble understanding English? Or, it's like, it's a bad habit. It's a bad habit.
It's not these filler words, I think.
No, you can say, and that's what happens when a person says that 5 or 6 times in a 5-minute talk. You realize it's just become a bad habit for them, and they need to
rather
stop
than saying or they say, does that make sense?
And but it's just not. It doesn't convey what I think people think it should. Now, if you get to the end of your presentation and you say, "Does anyone have any questions?"
That's where you find out if it did or did not make sense.
And now if they say, "Well, I didn't understand what," but when you, but saying, "Do you have any questions?" implies, well, maybe you understood perfectly what I'm saying, but that leads you to wonder this or that, But to say, "Does that make sense?" means that, I hope I wasn't talking over your head. I hope I didn't use words that were too big for you.
Yeah.
And so it seems to be common. I've seen a number of folks who do that, and don't do that, because it's just not it's a question that does not accomplish nearly as much good as you think it does.
Yeah.
Just say, "I hope I've been clear," or I know what people think. They're trying to say, "I hope I've explained myself well." Well, say that, because then the onus is on you. It's like, maybe I hope I've been clear. I hope I explained myself. But when you say, "Does it make sense?" then that tends to put onus more on the listener. Maybe you didn't understand. I was using 2-syllable words or less, but maybe it didn't make
For
sense.
some reason, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say you're not that brilliant.
Well, Richard, to make a long story short,
Sam, you're starting to get on my nerves.
let's take a pause here. We'll have a quick break, and we'll wrap up when we come back. Come hear from Richard Blackaby live March 28th through the 30th at the Billy Graham Training Center at the Cove in an event titled The Senior Celebration, Living Victoriously in a Troubling, Confusing, and Dangerous World. Peace and tranquility can be shattered in an instant by our hostile culture or the trials we face. How do we live with joy and confidence in the Lord, no matter the circumstances? Come study Mark 4 and learn to rest in Christ's power to deliver us from the brokenness of our world. Richard would love to meet you at this event, and we hope to see you there. You can find out more at thecove.org, and we'll leave links in the show notes. Well, Richard, I think you should feel, a few pounds lighter after the first
Thanks. I feel
part
better,
of this.
Sam.
You kind of unloaded some of those pet peeves, some of those annoyances.
I'll move on to other
that
stuff.
just bug you, But no, I'm glad. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
just get it off your chest.
If you just kind of help me out there,
we'll have a little therapy here. But there are some other areas that, despite you might want to camp out here on the pet peeves and all that.
Yeah, we'll move on here.
Yeah, we can.
There's a couple more.
Keep rolling on. So just again, we're looking at ways that we can sort of beef up our people skills, things that we can look at in our leadership in our life that will help us be better at communicating with people, be better at interacting, and ultimately leading people.
Yeah. And so let me fire a couple at you here, a little bit more rapid fire. A fifth one I would say is pay attention to what people are saying. And of course, this is, I think you know what I mean these days. It's like we're so busy ready with what we have to say that we really have not listened carefully to what others have said. Yeah. I'm not trying to say I'm always good at this, but I've been in a number of conversations where maybe there's three of us and someone's talking, and then the third person starts to talk, and I can tell right away they didn't hear what was being said, because what they're saying indicates they didn't hear. They're and sometimes I've even cut in to say, well, that's what they're saying, or that's just what they said, But you're pay attention, but I'll tell you what, it again, and this is awful, but it's almost a lost art of. Now we're so busy. Okay, my turn's coming up here soon. So what am I going to say? Instead of really listening, so you understand exactly where they're coming from, and then that may lead, when you're listening carefully, that may lead you to say something that's much deeper, more relevant, more profound, and it indicates, okay, I've heard you, and I get that. Or maybe you ask a follow-up question that shows, okay. Yeah, well, in that case, what about this? Or, that
reminds me of our coaching workshop and the multi-level listening. Shout out to Bob Royal.
That's a great segue there, Sam.
A little shameless plug here. Find out more of the next workshop, May 2nd through 4th, blackabycoaching.org. But that is an art for sure.
And in the workshop, we actually practice listening, which you think, I know how to listen, but
you realize, we don't know how to listen.
Yeah, and it's sad sometimes. I've been in conversations, and then I can't recall what was the name of that person. What did they say? What was the name of that company? They said I should, I realized I didn't put any of that away. I was putting in my time. So learn to be a careful, perceptive listener, and that is one of the greatest people skills, is when you're not talking at all but you're listening. Another one is just, and on both sides of this we know this, but be careful you're not bragging about yourself. Nobody wants to listen to a braggart, a blowhard, and we all have ways of wanting to kind of put our best foot forward and let people know of stuff. And it doesn't mean that you never celebrate good things that you're excited about, but there is a way of talking a bit too much about yourself and not enough about others. And at the same time, I'd say the flip side of that is, especially in leadership, be careful that you're not putting yourself down. And again, if I were to follow, especially if I see a leader who's struggling to move people, to influence them, to get people to maybe volunteer for them or whatever, you'd be amazed at the word choice they use. Like when you say something like, I'll try to, And I've seen this a lot with staff. If I ask someone, hey, could you take care of this? Well, I'll try. Don't say I'll try. Say, yeah, I'll do that, Yeah,
there is no try.
There is no try. Or I think so. Or, how did it go? Well, it was okay. I don't want someone working for me that just everything's okay, or they'll try, or they'll hope so. Be confident. Use words, and you don't have to do it in a braggadocious way, but say, I'll take care of it. And that may mean you have to end up getting help or circle back around, but you'll make sure it gets done. Or, how'd it go? I think I thought it was great, or it seemed like it really went well, or and I'll tell you what, there's just a bunch of words that I think leaders need to just discard from their vocabulary.
Yeah.
Just mediocre, lukewarm kind of words. Don't be a lukewarm leader. And a lot of times leaders use lukewarm words that have no punch whatsoever, that incite no confidence, and choose to use words that are exciting, that are positive, that have energy, that sound confident. A seventh thing is just try to avoid blaming others or criticizing others, especially when it comes to your own performance. It's just so easy to find a way to say, well, I didn't get that done, or sales were down, or attendance has been down, or we didn't get that job finished, and then we immediately point to someone else. And I'll tell you, if I'm a leader and I've got someone working under me and all they ever have are excuses why something wasn't done, it does not endear me to them. And I don't like, even if I'm in just a social conversation and someone just wants to constantly put down other people, it's just such a turnoff. I feel dirty somehow after someone has just been like just talking down all kinds of people. And so just be a positive person, and a person that is not constantly blaming others for why they have not done more.
Yeah.
An eighth thing, again, just go the extra mile. And I tell you what, I just can't emphasize that enough, that especially if you're looking to build a career, you're trying to just build an organization, you're trying to inspire a great group of people, go the extra mile. Leaders don't get the easy road. Leaders take the high road. They go harder. They start earlier. They stay longer. Do your homework. Know what you're up against. Come prepared. And even just little things like, I'll tell you what, if I'm trying to hire someone, or I'm looking to promote someone, there are some people that just have a way of going the extra mile. And you can see this in so many different ways. Like I've been I'm in a meeting with all these CEOs, and so all of a sudden the teacher for that session is going to hand out handouts to everybody in the room. These people are all CEOs. They're all lead major companies. And it's always interesting to see the people that will jump up and say, here, let me help you hand out your handout. Who's the first person to jump up and help and to lend a hand? Or there's going to be a meeting, and so you got to go to a committee meeting, and you show up. You picked up some donuts on the way. It's just like, okay, I'm coming to a meeting like everybody else, but I just thought, hey, wouldn't that be kind of fun I'll bring in a cold brew or something for everybody, or I'll do something a little bit extra that no one else probably will do, but that means that people love having me on the committee. They love having me in the room, because if there's something that needs to be done, it looks like we're going to need a few more chairs. We got some more people coming. And you jump up and you're quickly putting those chairs out and you're helping out. I'll tell you what, you start to develop this reputation as there's the person that you can always count on to be the first one to help out, to join in, to volunteer. And that opens doors. That wins favor. If you end up needing help, there's a bunch of people saying, listen, that guy's always there for me every time there's a need. But there's a bunch of folks who just kind of sit back and they just don't take the initiative, and those are missed opportunities. If you're wanting to learn how to just win favor with people, be the first guy to take the initiative, to go the extra mile, to be thinking about just something extra that you might be able to contribute. And then just the last two, I would just say a ninth one is mind your appearance. Be aware of what people see when they're, of course, we're not looking in the mirror when we're talking to people, but so we don't always see what other people see. But and again, this is kind of this is my own kind of personal opinion, but I think it never hurts to dress up a little bit. Like I'm often told by folks, oh, this is pretty casual, you could wear jeans if you want to. And people, I mean, oftentimes I'm speaking in those meetings, and so I'll tend to say, okay, well, maybe I'll wear jeans, but I'll throw a blazer on anyway. And I may not wear a tie, but I'll dress up just a tad, just maybe a little bit above the average, because I'm going to be on the platform, and people they know I've come in to speak to them, and it's just amazing. There's a big fad. We've talked about this before, certainly among pastors too. Just wear ripped up jeans and a ratty, disheveled T-shirt, and that's fine. But if you want, that doesn't necessarily gain confidence. They may think, oh, you're as big of a slob as I am, but to gain confidence in your leadership ability, you look sharp. And can I tell you something else? Again, this is purely just my own opinion, but I've seen some guys. I mean, like, there's nothing, like, obviously wearing a beard is fine, So like,
well, thank you.
Yeah. So like it can actually look really impressive and sharp and so on. I have nothing against beards, but I know some guys who wear long beards but their beard's gone gray. And Sam, one day that's going to happen to you, but
I don't think so.
Not for a while. You're still a kid, but okay. Here's the thing I've noticed. I know some guys who they wear a beard, and that's fine, but it's gone maybe even early gray. And so all of a sudden, here's a guy who's only maybe 40, but he looks like Santa Claus. I mean, he looks like an old man. He literally, a gray beard can add 10, 20 years onto your age just by, and so, for instance, I know some pastors that will do that. They want to wear a beard, that's fine, but they look old. But they want to, again, there's nothing wrong with looking old. I mean, I look old just naturally.
Well, I didn't say that.
But yeah, I know what you're thinking.
No.
Watch your people skills, though, Sam. But you know
great,
what I'm
Richie.
saying? It's like, if you could look 10 years younger as a leader, and you're a public speaker, and maybe you dress a little bit sharper, that wins favor for you.
That's something I think that we don't like about ourselves, because I think we want to think that appearances don't matter.
Yeah.
I think, like, intellectually we say, well, it doesn't matter what people look like. We shouldn't judge people by how they look, but we do.
Yeah.
And that's just ingrained in us.
And there is, I mean, you take 10 years off of your appearance, and you immediately can appear more energetic, more sharp, more in touch with maybe the younger crowd that's in front of you. And again, it's just a subjective thing, but I've just seen some folks who've done that. Some people can pull it off well. And I mean, it depends on what you're doing. But for instance, if you're a pastor and you're not attracting any young people, but you look like an old man in the pulpit. And now that doesn't mean old men can't, be winsome to young people. But if I were looking at some of the leaders who are not thinking about, I just want to say, what's the image you're trying to project here? Like, what is it you want to look like? What image do you think would be most attractive and appealing to a young audience that you're trying to attract? Looking older than you are, that's probably never a good approach to trying to just win more people over, unless you're working in a retirement home, perhaps. But so, I mean, that's kind of that's just a peeve of mine. But I just see some folks, the way they dress old, they dress out of style. They have old-fashioned hairstyles or whatever else, and all of that just says they're not really on top of things with themselves. If they're not managing their own body in a contemporary, up-to-date, relevant fashion, then how would I expect them to manage an organization? And so, again, just now and then, it just doesn't hurt to get outside person to,
get some outside feedback.
Look at how, I'm not saying you got to wear all the latest fashions and always, be constantly changing your wardrobe, but but just look professional. Look and some choices we make, because we just may not care. We just may not care what if our hair is combed or not, or if we shaved today or whatever. But sometimes, just some of the times, I think that's actually costing us in our people skills, and we don't even realize it. It's a turnoff to people, or they may not be turned off, but they don't. We're missing an opportunity to come across professionally, competently. And the last one is just show respect for others. You know what? Sometimes people say things that you may totally disagree with, and I've had to work with this sometimes. Sometimes I hear some really off-the-wall comment, and I just feel like that needs to be corrected or pointed out. And maybe it does, but sometimes no. Just let it pass.
Yeah.
Like
let's
move on. No one's going to take that comment seriously anyway. Let's not belittle them. And a lot of times I find that we burn bridges with people that are unnecessary. There's people I totally disagree with in certain, maybe in their politics or their economics or other things, social views. But you know what? That's fine. I can still be respectful of people that I don't agree with, which is a lost art certainly in our society today. Mm-hmm. But as a leader, especially if you want to develop a growing influence over more people, then don't burn bridges unnecessarily. Be someone that's winsome, that can appeal to a wide variety of people. They know that you don't agree with them on all things, but you're always kind to them. You're always respectful. Learn to speak to people in a respectful way. Knowing that remembering their name certainly helps. Saying things in a respectful way. I appreciate you sharing that, your opinion. I appreciate you being honest with me about that. And you don't have to get defensive about everything. You don't have to be argumentative. And sometimes just affirming what someone else has said, thank you, and it gives a lot to think about there. And then you kind of move on with your own. Again, the people that know how to work with people learn how to just find little ways to just show respect. Mm-hmm. And you might not respect their opinion, but you can expect them as a person that has an opinion. So lots of things to say. Hey, by the way, just to our listeners, feel free to just fire us off stuff as well that you find. And as you're working with people, what are the things people do that just immediately gain your favor, your goodwill? When someone does that, you immediately think, I like this guy. This guy, I like how he handles himself. I like how he relates to people. There's lots of things people can do. And I think as a leader who wants to keep growing, then it's great to just keep your eyes open to people that seem to really be gifted at working with people, and see if you can't just incorporate some of that into your own repertoire in the days to come as well. Yeah, well, we'd love to hear from our listeners, things that have really made others stand out to you. You can email us podcast@blackaby.org. And once again, Richard, thank you for walking us through and helping us remind us really that it really is all about people. So until next time.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If this is something you enjoyed, it really makes a difference if you leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. We always love hearing from our listeners, so email us at podcast@blackaby.org.